Oh wow, they are churning them out. Hi there, could I order sausage rolls please? Ooh. Thank you so much, have a lovely day. They sell 1 million of these a day. One is sold every 5 seconds. The Greggs sausage roll. My guilty pleasure. I think the Greggs sausage roll has the most important cultural significance and food place in British society as a whole.
Bold statement.
You know what they say? Sausage roll a day keeps the doctor away.
I think we can do better. Let's get back to Fallow and figure it out.
Do not ruin the beloved sausage roll.
We're going to take the bits that everyone loves and we are going to make our ultimate version. Don't eat any more of these, all right? We've got another one coming up. A good sausage roll starts with a good sausage. Something funny about that? Do you want to buy the best quality sausage you can? I like a really good quality, meaty, fatty sausage. In the war, when meat was rationed, the sausages used to get filled with lots of other ingredients. As they were cooking, the water would expand and then would burst, hence the name banger. Next, we can get on with flavouring the sausage meat up slightly. So I'm going to take my little pan. I'm going to take one lovely banana shallot. So I'm just going to finely chop this shallot and we're going to sweat it down in some duck fat. Now the duck fat is there for flavour and it is obviously optional. You could use butter, you could use any type of fat really, olive oil if you wanted to do that. So I'm going to put that on a very low heat. You could use onion, you could use red onion, you could use leek, you could use whatever you want. Shallots I find have much nicer flavour, sweeter flavour, slightly more elegant. I'm looking to blow little Murray's socks off. Doesn't take much. So you might ask, why have I bought in sausages and taken them out the skin instead of just buying sausage meat? You're a professional chef. We wanted to do it in a similar way as you could do at home. So buy a good quality sausage from your butcher or from the supermarket, taking them out, and then now having a plain sausage means you can then flavour it in any way, shape or form you think. Then you can develop the flavour and you can tweak it. But equally, you could start with a flavoured sausage and still build on that flavour. There's no rules with this. Like with anything, it's just all about building the levels and just tasting it. You want to cook out all that liquid so that everything in the sausage is nice and dry and it's not going to add any extra steam, because the steam is also going to affect the pastry slightly when we cook in the sausage roll. And then we've got a little bit of sage, which I'm just going to finely chiffonade up and add into our sausage as well. You could also add, other herbs in at this stage. You can add tarragon, you can add thyme, you can add rosemary. I'm gonna add the sage raw straight to the sausage meat. Keep that nice aroma, that nice fragrance. So I'm gonna put a little touch of salt in now, just a little bit. So I've got some pepper, touch of 5 spice, some garlic powder. Gonna go in with some fennel seeds. I'm just gonna put those into my shallots just to open up the aroma. Paprika as well. Just adding that into the sausage meat, a little hit of smokiness, tiny bit of background heat. Just gonna mix that together. So you may think that the 5 spice was a bit of a random addition there, but 5 spice would have been very traditional, sort of used in meat pies back in the Victorian ages. So that's the reason that that's in there. You've obviously got the aroma from the fennel, the aroma from the sage, and then you've got just the classic seasonings of paprika, garlic powder and pepper, which is gonna add a really good background flavour. Some slightly stale bread, which we're just gonna break up into the sausage meat, and that's gonna help absorb all that fat and absorb the fat of the sausage as well and the duck fat, and it will soak into one beautiful meat mixture. So I'm just gonna finely chop it and it will break up through the meat as we're mixing it anyway. So my shallots are now confit. So you can see that beautiful smell coming off there is amazing. So I'm gonna add that to my sausage meat. It doesn't matter if it's a little bit warm. One little tip which I would definitely recommend you do is we're gonna taste some of this meat. And what we're gonna do is effectively we're gonna cook a small little patty to check the seasoning. And that way you can cook it, taste it, and then you can see what the final product's gonna taste like and adjust the seasoning now. Because you don't wanna go through all this effort, make the pastry, roll it out, cook it, bake it, and then eat it, and you're like, oh shit, it needs a bit more salt. Sorry for swearing. Second tip, mince can get quite sticky. Very, very lightly, just a little bit of water in your hands. And if you do that, then the meat won't stick to your hands. So I'm just gonna make a small little patty, place it into a non-stick pan, give our little pork patty a try. Not bad. Fennel seed is lovely. Lovely and bouncy like a sausage roll, which is key. You don't want it to taste like a slab of pork. You want it to have that like fatty, like melt in your mouth texture. Salt, fraction more. I'm gonna add a touch more pepper, just because you get different types of heat. Pepper has like a nice sort of more of a floral heat. Tiny bit more fennel, tiny bit more garlic powder. There we have it, that's good to go now. Just gonna give that a little mix and then that is ready to fill our sausage rolls later. It's effectively just a really good sausage patty recipe as well. So you've seen the sausage, now it's time for the roll. The easiest thing, and to be honest, if I was doing this at home, I would just go to the shop and buy a sheet of puff pastry. However, this is a cooking channel, so we are gonna make a rough puff pastry. So we've got our flour, I'm gonna place that into our bowl. So this is strong white bread flour. And the next stage we're gonna do is we're gonna add our butter. Puff pastry is like the creme de la creme. That's the premium. But very difficult to make at home because it involves a lot of labor, a lot of folding, a lot of rolling. So what we're gonna be making is a rough puff, which effectively takes the principles of puff pastry, but makes it much more achievable and much simpler to follow at home. We do use it in restaurants as well. It's not just an at-home recipe. We're gonna add a little pinch of salt to our flour, and then we're gonna grate the butter into our flour. And this is gonna speed up the process. It's gonna make it easier to incorporate, and it looks cool. The key stage of this is trying to keep everything cold. So our butter's just come out of the fridge. You're gonna work nice and fast. So obviously what we're trying to do here is keep the layers of butter in the flour so we get the rise as it cooks. That's the whole point of rough puff and puff pastry. So you could do this in a food processor. You could do this by dicing up the butter and then rubbing it in, which is the classic method. But what that does, obviously heats up the butter as you're doing it and melts the butter. And what we're trying to do is get distinct layers between the flour and the butter. I'm gonna take a spoon and we're just gonna mix the butter and the flour together. I'm using a spoon, as obviously my hands are gonna hold a lot of heat and they're gonna melt the butter quickly. So we wanna move fast at this point. Just mixing it together. It's a real good cheat code, this, of getting this pastry done is by grating the butter. It's a real lifesaver. Now, once that's all incorporated, next we're gonna add our water. The water goes in, bring this together, so it forms a light ball. So we're gonna pull out our dough onto the bench, and we're gonna knead this for as short a time as possible. Just literally bring it together because we don't wanna melt the butter. Wrap that in cling film and pop it in the fridge to cool. I would be getting your pastry done ideally the day before, or at least first thing. You really wanna leave it to cool for longer the better, really. If you can get it done a day before, great. Or at least a couple of hours. The next thing we're gonna add to our sausage roll, just to level it up, is we're gonna make some beer caramelized shallots. So we're gonna add a little layer of sweetness to our sausage roll. We're gonna finely slice them. We're gonna sweat them down in a touch of butter. From when we tasted the Greggs sausage roll, I felt that it's lovely, but it's one-dimensional. So for our ultimate sausage roll, I feel like, a little bit of sweetness, a little bit of bitterness from the beer, that sort of lovely umami caramelization you can get from caramelizing shallots, would add a really nice dimension. Do add a little bit of thyme as well, just strip that off the stem. Tiny bit of salt, as always, just gonna help them break down a little bit. So while that's going, I'm gonna start to roll out my pastry, effectively add the rough puff element to the pastry. So I'm just gonna flour my board a little bit, flour the top of the pastry, rub that in a little bit. Just compress the dough nicely so it's in roughly the right shape. If you watch one of our previous videos, we're gonna do the ridging technique again for this pastry. We wanna move quickly and confidently, so to avoid the butter melting too much. And if it starts to get a bit stickier, because obviously there's a lot of butter in here, then we can just re-flour the surface nicely, as Jamie does. Push the sides down just so you keep that nice shape. So we're looking to grow this by 3 times. So that's what we started with roughly, so we're almost there. And what we're gonna do here is we're gonna fold the top down into the center, and then we're gonna fold this half back over, creating a nice layer like so. And then we're just gonna turn that 90 degrees, give it a little flouring, and then we're gonna basically ridge again, looking to grow it again by 3 times. Almost there, then just one final little roll. So as you can now see, we've got these lovely streaks of butter, exactly what we're looking for. The butter hasn't melted in, and I'm just gonna do that one final fold, exactly the same on this side, fold it back onto itself, and then just compress that together nicely. One final, just press to make sure it's all combined. That's my block of rough puff pastry that we've now made. So now I'm just gonna place that, wrap it nicely, pop it back into the fridge for 20 minutes before we use it. So our shallots have now been caramelizing, and they're now about ready. The fat's separated, starting to get a little bit of colour on. So I'm now going to turn up the heat and add my ale. We're going to reduce that down to a nice glaze. We want them really nice and sticky, stirring it regularly. A bit of dark Muscovado sugar for colour and flavour, and also a touch of red wine vinegar. Then we want to cook down this liquid again because we want it to be nice and thick, because otherwise it will make the pastry soggy. Once our shallots are all cooked down, we're going to take them out into a tray, just spreading it out so it cools down quickly. Obviously, if you did this the day before, you can just chuck it in a container, chuck it in the fridge. The steam from the shallots, if I put them on hot, would affect the rising of the pastry. So now, I'm going to take my pastry out of the fridge. We're now going to start to get ready to make the sausage rolls. So I'm going to take my block of pastry. I'm going to remove just under a quarter of the pastry. I'm going to set that aside for making the lattice. Pop that in the fridge for now. Rolling out my pastry. Again, I'm just going to focus on getting that nice shape, ridging to start with. So we're looking to get 24 centimeters by 24 centimeters. So roughly 24 is going to be about there. Just going to square this off nicely. So very minimal wastage there. And then in theory, I should be able to cut this out into 4 perfect pieces. May seem a bit of a faff. I mean, if you're not too bothered about the exact sort of perfect squares, then you can just do it by eye. It's not a problem at all. But we've come this far, so I thought we'd go all the way. Next thing is gonna get my hands wet, and I'm gonna take my sausage meat. And again, I just want to split this equally into 4. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the first sheet of pastry. I'm actually gonna put these back in the fridge so they stay nice and cold. A little bit of flour just so nothing sticks. Small amount of shallot on top of the pastry. Not going too close to the edges. So you're gonna spread the whole layer apart from the very end, which is gonna be our seal across here. Tiny bit of the egg wash across that seal. Touch of water on my hands. Fondle your meat into a rough sausage shape. I wanna try and leave about 1 centimetre or so on each end. And then we're gonna lift up the pastry and roll it over. Rolling it nice and tight. And then using that seal, tucking it under, and you should be able to finish just like that. Follow the process with the other remaining 3 sheets of pastry. Some of them just tidying up ever so slightly, just making sure they all look as nice as possible. I'll leave these in the fridge. Now I've got my reserve pastry to start our lattice. A tiny bit of flour on the board, a little bit of finesse, a little bit of decoration on the top, a little bit of fun. We're going to show you how to make it at home without a lattice cutter. So I've got my 4 sheets of lattice, and I'm going to pop this in the fridge to cool down. So once the pastry's cooled down, I'm just going to give it another little roll just to make sure it's all looking good, nice and thin at this stage. So using a knife, we're going to do 2 centimetre slits with a rough 1/2 centimetre gap in between, like so. And then with the next line across, we're going to do where you didn't score. So it's almost like alternating between. Hopefully that makes sense. It sounds more complicated than it is. I'm just going to pull them all over and pull out my first sausage roll. Of egg wash. Going to brush that over the top of the sausage roll just so it sticks. Lay it over and just stick it all the way around the outside, like so. I'm going to place that back into the fridge. Well, I'll do the glazing of the top once we've done all of them. We just popped our sausage rolls into the freezer for 5-10 minutes just to firm up slightly before we bake them. And I'm going to place a heavy bottom tray into the oven. Any tray you've got at home will work as fine, but we just want to get it hot. So we're going to set the oven to 200 degrees, get the tray preheated so we can place the sausage rolls on top, and it's going to start instantly cooking from underneath. Okay, so here's our little sausage Wellingtons. Final glazing of egg wash. We're going to go with a couple of fennel seeds. Nice little sprinkling of salt over the top as well. I always like a little bit of salt on top of my pastry. I think it adds a nice little crunch. Finally, just a couple of onion seeds as well. Because we're going to remove our preheated tray, call in an assistant to give you a quick lift with the pastry, and then we're just going to place that directly into the oven. So 200 degrees, 10 minutes before we drop it down to 180 to finish until the internal temperature of 68. So after about 25 minutes, this is what you should be left with. So I'm just going to remove them onto a wire rack just so that the air flows around the bottom. You don't get a soggy bottom, but that pastry is feeling so crisp. You want to rest them for a little bit. You still want them to be served hot, but you want to let the juices sort of relax a little bit. We're going to serve this with a little bit of our fallow sriracha. Where did you spring from?
Hey, when sausage rolls are involved. Ooh! So you got a layer of caramelised onions on the outside. The question is it better than the OG? It looks better.
So I think we've tried to keep all of the aspects of the Greggs sausage roll. It's fairly clean, not too much going on. Sausage in the middle, pastry's baked nicely. Actually, kind of looks still pretty similar. Obviously, we'd like to think it's obviously going to be better because it's been made, taken time over it. We've used a lot of chef's tips in there and skills.
Oh, that is crispy. The pastry is so crisp.
Yeah, the pastry's amazing. Shallot's like a nice little sticky layer. It really stayed around the outside nicely.
When someone does a gourmet sausage roll, they always make the meat too big. This is good because it's just as smashable as a Greggs sausage roll.
After showing that we can replicate it, make it better, make it more chefy and achievable at home, safe to say we're not going to be eating this anymore. Oh. Thank you and good night.